All right, round six. This is the last day of the event. We have a +1 score going into this. We're undefeated as well. 4 draws, 1 win. We've been losing in 3 out of the 4 draws, but that has not stopped us so far. So this game, we have the white pieces. I've been getting very good positions with white in this tournament. There was one position where I wasn't able to convert, but the other one I won the game. So I'm very hopeful in this one that the same thing will occur. That was my mindset entering the game. So we get d4 and we have a Queen's Gambit declined. We take and play bishop g5, which is the line that I was preparing for this tournament. E3, bishop e7, bishop d3, castles. It's sort of very main line. And then I play h3. So the idea of h3 is that I want to be able to tuck my bishop away on the h2 square. I don't want to lose the bishop for the knight. Um, After, for example, like h6, uh, bishop f4, knight h5, something like this could win the bishop if it didn't have this square in h2. Uh, So and also h3 is sort of just a move that's useful in these sorts of structures. It's sort of interchangeable with the move order that it goes. There's some perks to doing it certain ways, but the moves are basically like queen c2, castles, and h3, and the exact order of those moves generally isn't critical. So I thought I'd just start with h3 so that I can do this. So after rook e8, I voluntarily drop the bishop back to f4. It looks a little silly because I spent the tempo putting the bishop on g5 just to put it on f4. Why didn't I put it on f4 immediately? The reason is because the bishop on g5 was preventing black from getting a better like setup with his pieces early on. So the bishop did its job on g5, and now that it's I've gotten the sort of setup that I want, it can go back to the diagonal that I would rather position it on, which is the h2 b8 diagonal, covering the critical b8 square. Now after knight d f8, which is a standard plan, castles, knight g6, bishop h2, bishop d6. Now I trade the darks for bishops. It seems like I spent a lot of time, getting my bishop to h2 just to trade it off. But when you think about it this way, the tempi that I lost were knight coming to g6 and queen coming to d6. And neither of those pieces actually wants to be on those squares. It's kind of interesting to think about it that way. But the queen on d6 really wants to be on e7, where it can support knight jumping to e4. And the knight on g6 is really out of the game. It actually doesn't have any useful forward squares to go to. It probably doesn't really want to be there. So yes, black did get some tempi, technically speaking, by kicking my bishop around, and then once it was traded, now it's like, oh, black got all this stuff. But the squares the pieces have gone to, they probably are going to want to move away from them anyway. So that's something interesting positional concept that I was sort of learning about during this game and a little bit more after. Um, Queen c2. Queen c2 is I thought was a nice move. It's just a developing move. Put some pressure on the king side. Bishop d7, and now I'm going for plan A. So there's 4 plans in this position. Plan A is the minority attack with rook b1 and b4. Plan B and or C are sort of interchangeable. They're basically playing for e4. One is with like rook e1 e4, and the other was with f3 e4. Um, and then plan D is going in with the knight. It's called the post up. So those are the 4 plans in the position. And in this game, it felt like the plans B through D didn't make any sense. So plan A, rook b1, a5 sort of stops plan A, but it does allow some more creative options that go outside of the general plans. So knight a4 is the move that I chose. It goes to play against these dark squares. Uh, Interestingly, in World Open, if you recall that video, in the second to last round, I want to say it was round 8. Um, I had a position where I was black, and I my opponent uh my opponent the pawn was on a6, but my opponent allowed or on the sorry, it was on a3 because I was black. My opponent allowed me to play knight a5, and then I played knight c4, bishop went to c1. I eventually traded the bishops off on f4, and I got a very pleasant position. So this sort of reminded me of that game, and I wanted to do better than I did in that game because in the end, I got a winning position, but I was only able to make a draw. So knight a4 felt like a very good move. Rook went to b8, a very good square. And after knight b6, um, I'm attacking the bishop. If the bishop wants to stay alive, it needs to go to e6. Maybe bishop e6 is a good move. It's very possible that bishop e6 is a good move, but I felt like it's not. And the reason I felt like it's not a good move is because the rook is supporting the e4 square. The knight wants to jump to the e4 square. This knight really has no future other than going to the e4 square. And the bishop being on e6 is cutting off communication from the rook to the e4 square. It's sort of getting in the way, and it has no squares to go back to. Uh, it also can get hit by knight g5 if I really want to win the bishop. So it's not even like it's really saving the bishop from being captured by the knight. So I think bishop e6, while it was the move that I was mainly considering for black, it's not a good one. I think the move that my opponent played is actually a better move, knight e4. Um, and after so I looked at two options. One was taking the bishop first and then going knight d2, and the other was going knight d2 straight away. The issue with knight d2 straight away, I think, is after bishop f5, if I play f3, um, there's just knight takes d2, and if I take on f5, then a rook hangs. So, for example, if I go like this, there's time actually for bishop f5, f3, knight takes d2. If I take here, then I don't think it really matters which one they take, but probably this one. And yeah, I was looking at like, can I do something like this? But none of it works. I'm just going to be down in exchange. So I don't want to allow the bishop to survive. So I take it first, then I go knight d2. And in this position, I was expecting either like f5 or queen e7. Probably queen e7 is a stronger move because the pawn on f5 might be a weakness after I play f3. But if queen e7, if I play f3, then there's some serious pressure on that I can't do it because there's knight takes d2 and then queen takes e3 check. So queen e7 I think is probably the right move for black. In the game, he just captures on d2 and I recapture, and after rook a8 defending the pawn on a5, now we take some time and we try to think of a we think of a plan, because this is the we just got through all these there were tactical things, there were a lot of like the position wasn't sharp, but it was like there are a lot of moves that like you sort of just have to play, have to look for, whatever. And now we're in this position where it's become very strategic. I have a good bishop against my opponent's horrendous knight, and the reason it's so horrendous is because it takes so many turns just to get to a useful square, which the square the knight needs to be on is either it needs to be on these squares, maybe even on c4, but probably not c4. D6 is the ideal square for the knight, and then if it can go to e4, it should go to e4, but if it just can sit on the d6 square, then it's good. The problem is it takes a very long time for it to get to that square. It needs to go to e7, c8. And in the meantime, I'm going to be doing some very aggressive tempo-gaining moves. Um, I play b4. I determined that the reason I play b4 is because I was looking at a few things. If I was looking at playing a3 b4, but if I play a3, then a4 occurs, and it's that stops the idea. The way that I can make this work is if I play b3 first, like b3, a3, b4, which is a plan in some openings. Some openings have this sort of like slow building way to avoid the one holds two structure, which is this. This is one holds two structure. And the way you avoid it is you play b3 first, and then uh, if a4, then I can play b4. But if nothing, like if let's say you just sit, let's say like knight f8 or something, then a3, and now I'm gonna play b4, and I'll be able to recapture with the pawn. like which is really what I want to be doing. So then I can play b5 after, and I'll be able to play against the backward c6 pawn. But what I realized in this position is that I'm going to be able to. So you have to basically capture this pawn, because if you play a4, then I'll get the thing I was just talking about with b5. And if you don't do anything, then I'm going to take on a5. So both of those give me some weakness or something to play against. So you have to take. And now I realize that I'm going to be able to force at some point in some way the move b5. If you don't play the move b5, like let's say that you try to sit with this. Um, I mean, I don't even really know how you sit with it. Like maybe you can try to defend from the side with like rook e7. Let's say rook b1. Queen needs to go to c8 or something. And now I can just play like, I don't know, queen b2. I have a lot of pieces. You can play rook b8, I guess, but already now I'm probably gonna have some tactic. Whatever happens, I'm going to be able to force b5. I think. I think I'm gonna be able to get b5 to be played, and then if I get b5 to be played, I'll be able to play a4, and I'm going to be able to trade off my a pawn for the b pawn, and you'll either be left with, if you let me trade, you'll be left with the pawn on b5, and if you trade, then you'll be left with the pawn on c6. And either way, I will have a weakness on a light square that I'll be able to target with all of my pieces. And if I can win that, then the d5 pawn should fall, and if the d5 pawn falls, then I'll be up 2 pawns in an endgame, and I should win that. That's like the way I'm planning on winning the game at this point. So b5 immediately. I felt like maybe you should make me work for it a bit more. I think that I should like in the way that this happens, I already have immediate queen c2 and a4, and I'm gonna get what I want with the weakness. I felt like maybe there was a way that the black could have tried to make me work for it a little bit more, but okay, it's probably gonna happen eventually. So we'll just go straight forward, I guess. Queen on c2 is actually also really nice because the knight really wants to go to e7, but the way that this is structured, the h7 pawn is hit, and if you try to play h6, then I can take twice on g6. So it's really, the knight is going to need to go to f8, which it does not want to go to, because that's again, the ideal square is d6, and f8 is as far away from d6 as you can possibly be. So queen c2, I was very happy with this move. I think it's a very good move. Queen d6 is a sort of tempo move on the rook, but it just helps me develop my other rook with tempo. Um, Now the knight goes to f8. He's trying to just play like either like h6, g6, and get the knight able to move again. I play a4, takes, g6. So now the knight is free, but in the process of freeing itself, it has landed on the f8 square, which is not where it wants to be. Um, I play rook c1 pretty quickly. If so, I'm not saying that rook c1 is not the best move. Rook c1 could be the best move, but I was very upset with myself because I thought that I was completely winning after rook c1 because I didn't see. I thought he just had to play rook c8, and then um, I would play like queen a6 tempo. He would move the rook to like c7, and then I'd play bishop b5, winning. Like I thought I was just winning because it's pinned, so I was just winning the pawn, gonna win everything. But after rook c1, there's rook e6. I don't get that. The queen's now defended. Um, and then I realized, oh well, I should. Why didn't I go to b6? Right? If my rook was on b6 after rook e6, I would be able to play bishop b5. But that's not actually true because on bishop b5 there's c takes b5, and if I take the queen, then there's b takes a4. The queen is hit. So the rook on b6 is probably more active than the rook on c1, but the rook on c1 also stops c5 in the form of just hitting, like controlling the c5 square. So rook c1 I don't think is actually an inaccuracy, but I did miss this move rook e6. So like I thought I was just winning. Anyway, I think I played a good continuation following this point. Queen a8, pinning the knight. Uh, so now I'm threatening. My idea is either bishop c2 to a4 or bishop a6 to b7. King g7, I decide that bishop a6 to b7 is the way I want to go. Now I'm playing. I my idea is to go bishop on knight d7, which I thought was the right move in the position. I was going to go bishop c8. Bishop b7, I thought knight b8, and I wasn't totally sure, like in this position, for example, if this happens, I wasn't totally sure how I was going to win it. Um, Black is sort of tied down, but at the same time, I'm like my pieces are all they're all maximized already. So I don't really know how I was going to win in this position. I could try just sitting. I could try like queen a7 to b6. This is probably good. Maybe queen c7 could be played. I'm not sure. But anyway, I thought bishop b7 was not winning. So I was gonna play bishop c8. And my idea on bishop c8 was that if rook f6, which I thought was forced, it's not forced, I don't think. But on rook f6, my idea was that I was going to play queen a7. And I think I'm hitting the knight, right? The knight has access to uh, b8, but now once it gets there, I have queen b7, and the knight is trapped. The rook is sort of trapped. The queen. This position is basically zugzwang, actually. The rook can't move without. I guess the rook could. No, yeah, the rook can't move. It's trapped. The rook can't move. The queen can't move without hanging. Well, I guess it can move without hanging the pawn. But again, it's sort of out of squares. It only has the a3 square. But then this knight is attacked, but the rook is attacked. So maybe I'll put the rook on c5. Anyway, it's I'm not sure, but it looks really like now the knight actually is trapped. So these were the sorts of things that I was looking at. However, I think after bishop c8, there's the move knight b6. Unfortunately, which means that after this, then this, and this. I don't know if I'm actually going to be able to win this position because there is only one weakness, and I only have two pieces. It's possible that I'll be able to get like some active play and start to like threaten stuff over here. Probably it's probably a draw. It's probably I don't have anything here. So knight d7 I think definitely should have been played. Instead, my opponent sort of I guess was desperate and played queen b4. It's possible that he just missed bishop f1. I think that's likely what happens. I just take the pawn, and after a check, then bishop f1. If I don't have that here, if I can't take the pawn, if I don't have bishop f1, then I can't take the pawn because of queen e1. Then probably this is a good move for black, but I do have this. So after queen b1, I just play rook c8. This involved a little bit of calculation because I could just play a pawn up and just take the rook and you know, bishop versus knight. I'll play like g3, king g2, and just play this. But I really wanted to win this second pawn because, like I was explaining earlier, if I can get the second pawn, then the two pawns up, I'm just gonna win the endgame very easily. So rook c8 is sort of like it's a short calculation, but it does win the second pawn, I think, because rook c8 forces knight d7. It's the only move that doesn't lose the knight. And then queen takes d5. I now take the pawn. The only move that you have to calculate it is knight b6, which is a fork. But if you see that you have not rook b8, because rook b8 there's queen takes f1, right? And then I'm going to be down a piece. But there's queen b7, the other move that pins the knight to the other move that pins the knight to the queen. And now you can't take the rook. Next move, I'm going to move the rook. My opponent tried rook f6, but now I fork the knight and the rook. And now I knew I was winning. I mean, I sort of knew I was winning after I played rook c8, but to see the position on the board makes me feel much more comfortable that and confident that I am winning. So rook c6, my opponent tried queen f5, threatening mate. I take the rook, queen takes, g3, queen c5, and now I played a very nice move, bishop b5. The knight is now officially trapped. It can go to the d5 square, but if it goes to the d5 square, I'll have bishop c4. And then yeah, that move just seems pretty good. I mean, he can try like knight e7, knight c7, one of these moves, but the bishop is just dominating the knight in that position. Instead, queen e6, which allows this queen c6. This sort of forces the trade of queens, and the two pawns up, bishop versus knight endgame is of course clearly winning. The one move that I felt could have been tried in this position actually was queen f5, sacrificing the knight. And of course, this doesn't work because I'm up a bishop and two pawns, but it's sort of annoying. This line, I wasn't totally sure what I was going to do here. Like if I play king h2, there's queen c2, and there's no way for me to get my queen back. And I can't play bishop f1 here because it's pinned to my queen. It was just sort of obnoxious. If queen f5 was played, I was considering even playing like this move, e4. Um, and then like I don't know, what do you do? You go because the point of this move is that now you don't have any of these checks, right? So like now if you like take a pawn, I take the knight. If you go, I don't even know, like queen f3 probably. Now I take the knight, but you don't get any checks. If you play queen d1 check, I play king g2, and it's over. But this move, and this is up a bishop and a pawn, so this is clearly winning. Um, Probably the consolidating move, bishop f1, just making so there's no checks. It's going to be very easily winning. So I probably would have played e4 there. But anyway, in the game, we don't have to spend too much time. I played, I think, the most accurate move, bishop c4, forcing the knight to go to c7, which is a 2g. The bishop covers all the squares that the knight can go to. F4, I thought was the most. I thought I was playing this endgame very well. The most accurate moves each time. D5 takes with the bishop. King. G5 allows F5. I'm just showing you this because the finish of this game is very nice. After King F8, I play King C5. H5, I think the very nice move. Oh, I just spoilers. King C5, F6, takes, Knight C7, King C6, Knight E8, and here I actually, crazily enough, have to be careful. If I play King D7, which looks like I just win the knight, knight takes f6 is a stalemate. It's a fork as well. So I have to move the king, and then he takes on g4. It's a draw. Just immediately draw king d7, I think. So not that move. And instead, I play. I was considering like bishop e6, whatever, but bishop a2. I felt like was the most aesthetic checkmate, or not checkmate, but the most aesthetic way to force resignation. Um, the knight now is lost, and I'm going to easily win the game. It's just a very visually appealing position, dropping the bishop back and forcing opponent to resign. Um, so that was a very nice win. I got my second win of the tournament, second win with the white pieces as well. White has been the openings with white have been very good for me, even without knowing too much theory. D4 is just a very strong opening move, apparently. Let's take a look at this game. Um, let's see. So it's a queen's gambit declined. I trade in the middle. H3 is a good move. It's sort of, yeah, like I was saying, you can play like H3 castles, queen C2. Like all these moves are interchangeable. Um, Now bishop F4, yeah, it is listed as a move. Castling, of course, is going to be the top move. Queen C2 also, these are the moves that should be played. But bishop F4 I thought was an interesting option. Knight F8, castle, knight G6, bishop goes back to H2, bishop D6, takes, queen C2, bishop D7. Bishop D7 is sort of one of those moves where it feels like black has run out of ideas. Yeah, it's like a sort of useful developing move to connect the rooks, but what is it really doing on D7? Like, who really knows? Um, Going for plan A. Apparently, I can play B4 immediately. Yeah, this is one of those things. The same thing happened actually in the round 8 game of World Open, where I could have played B5, but instead I played like knight A4 or knight A5 in order to play B5. Like knight A5, knight C4. You can just play it first though, and if queen takes, then rook b1, and I get the thing. So you can't, then I get b4 b5 immediately. But I just play rook b1, a5. Now I go for this plan with knight a4, rook b8. Knight b6 is listed as a good move. Yep, knight b6. Okay. And yeah, bishop e6, which I thought for a while was my main move, but then I sort of was thinking like maybe it's not even that good of a move. Um, This is eventually I landed on this being the better move, but yeah, now I can play knight takes d7, queen takes d7, and knight d2. Knight takes d2 is actually the best move. So that's surprising to me because I felt like that was sort of like giving me everything I wanted. Now I'm going to have the better bishop against the knight. I'm going to have all of the plans on the queen side in my favor. I guess What's wrong with queen e7, actually? Bishop takes, pawn takes, and just rook fc1. So just playing this position with a knight is apparently good for me. I did not evaluate this properly. I was not really thinking that this was so good. What is the idea? I guess, oh, queen c5 is a fork. I'm threatening queen c5, I guess. Um, yeah, I guess the play is just purely in my favor at this point. Yeah, okay, I can sort of understand it after looking at it, but this is not what and maybe I would have done it. I mean, I don't really know, but I was leaning towards playing f3 actually, so probably in this position, um, I would have played like rook a or rook b in order to play f3, but this is not a good move. Now there's actually like an attack, f3, knight g3, rook f2. These sorts of things are not good. Uh, there's a check here. But then then the problem is the king moves and g6 might actually trap my bishop in there. So anyway, important to know these sorts of things where in that position after queen e7 I should actually take the knight, which normally I'm not normally that's bad, but sometimes it's good. So gotta calculate each time. But knight d2, knight takes d2, queen takes d2, rook a8. And yeah, here's where I think for a while, and I eventually settle on b4 as the most ambitious way to play. Bishop takes g6 I also considered briefly, but it just feels so wrong because the bishop is so nice, and the knight is out of the game. I was considering it though. I just feel like I shouldn't say it because it sort of seems like a blasphemous move. But okay, b4 takes, rook takes. Yeah, b5 I felt like you should make me work for it a little bit more. Um, After b5 I have a very nice move queen c2. I was very happy with this move. Apparently there's other moves that are all sort of similar, but queen c2 felt like uh, the most accurate move. Queen d6, rook fb1, knight goes to f8. I play a4. Yeah, a4 is a good move. Um, Here I was sort of already feeling like I got what I wanted, right? Like takes. I have the weakness. I have the weakness that I'm trying to play for. Um, g6 is fine, whatever. Um, I have the weakness, and now I just have this. I can just play against it and try to orchestrate my pieces in a way that allows me to win it. Rook c1 is the start. Rook b6 I was thinking about, but yeah, rook c1 is a more natural move anyway. After rook e6, which is the only move not to be losing. Queen a8, I was very happy with this move as well. King g7, and now I went bishop a6. I was also thinking about bishop c2 to a4, but bishop a6 felt like better. Yeah, queen a3 I was considering, but I thought that I would just play rook takes c6. How is this working? Rook takes c6. Queen a1, okay, king h2. Queen a2. Rook takes e6. Knight takes e6. And if I play f3, is there like knight g5? What is this? What's happening? Is there what is the issue with f3, I guess, is just that the queen is going to come in and take on e3. There's just too much counterplay. Yeah, either through a3 or b3, probably a3 because it goes there's also this check for some play. But I can't like do this. I can't get this thing. If I take here, oh, that hangs a bishop, right? Oh, you are also keeping contact with the bishop, of course. Okay. So yeah, that would have been a very strong move. Instead, queen b4, which is less strong because it doesn't attack the bishop. That lets me take. Check. Bishop f1, and now I'm borderline winning because I've just grabbed a pawn. Yeah, it's just sort of like panic, I guess. I was expecting knight here, and on this move there's knight b6, which I missed. This is I was gonna play bishop c8 because I thought it was basically winning after rook f6. Queen. I was actually gonna play queen a7 here, but the machine shows that actually here there's knight back to f8. Interesting. Whereas queen b7 is much better because mm, yeah, I mean obviously queen b7 is still hitting this thing. I don't know. I just didn't really see how I thought that I wanted the queen on a7 so that I would be able to play bishop b7 uh back at some point, like after rook f6, queen a7. Let's say the knight goes somewhere, then I thought I would want to be able to play bishop to b7. But here there's queen b4, I guess. I guess there's queen b4. And there's going to be some sort of checks. The rook is actually attacking the f pawn now. So yeah, I guess none of this really works unless unless black helps me out a bit. Um, this position after bishop a6 seems nice for white, but the whole time it's actually been holding. So queen b4 is the real culprit for why the position sort of just collapses. Queen b1, rook c8 is a very nice move. Um, Forcing knight here. Yeah, g4 was not a move that I was really looking at. I just took this thing because why not? Queen b7 is the only move, but it exists. So now I'm up 2 pawns. This felt like a pretty good way of playing. Queen b8. I should really see this move. That's a little bit unfortunate. I didn't play the move queen b8. It's just the idea of it is just to go to e5. Um, I was thinking that if I played queen b8, that there was going to be like queen b2, and um, and then I guess I just play f3 though. So it's just really nice. It's just a really nice move. Um, what about queen a2 though? Queen b8, queen a2. How about this move? Rook g8 check, and then queen f8. Oh, it's just gonna be like mate basically. Okay, yeah, queen b8, but rook c6. Okay, I missed the b8 square, but rook c6, I think it can be forgiven because it's very simple. Queen f5, I capture on f6, g3. Yeah, bishop b5, I think is a very nice move, and then queen c6 is very forcing. It forces everything off. Now I just get to play this endgame. The rest of this doesn't really matter. I do think it's nice. Bishop c4 is a very accurate move, I felt. I feel like f4 is a very accurate move. I feel like king f2 is accurate, e4 accurate, king e3. I thought all these moves were very nice. Um, we'll just go skip through this bit. It's important to try to play the best moves in every position. Like here, f6 is the best move. Um, takes here, king c6 here, and bishop a2. Yeah, very nice game, I think. I didn't play any moves that were bad, I think. Is that accurate to say? Is that correct? Um, maybe I didn't play white. Somehow knight d2 and allowing knight takes d2, I guess is an interesting thing to learn about because I would just have never thought. This sort of felt like exactly what I wanted, just to play this endgame. And then somehow the position is just like I'm playing all the top moves, but then the evaluation keeps going down little by little. What was my inaccuracy? I guess bishop a6 is sort of an inaccuracy, but it's part of a plan that I really wanted. So yeah, bishop a6. There was one move maybe where black had a chance to like get for equality, and then otherwise I always had a slight edge, which is very nice. And then the conversion was quite smooth. So yeah, good game. We're now on +2. We got 2 wins and 4 draws, and we're going into the last round. We will have the black pieces, so that's going to be a little tough, but we'll do our best. And yeah, it's a good tournament so far. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the last round. Thanks for watching.